My name is David Paniego, and I'm here to show you Aston 3D. Aston 3D is the latest addition to our product range, and is a 2D and 3D graphics creation and playout software. With the addition of this software, we think we can cover all the graphical needs of any broadcaster in the market. The first thing about Aston 3D that you will see is that it's a very user-friendly interface, which can be fully customized, uh, without a problem. It's fully customizable interface, sorry. And one of the things that you will see is that, for instance, some of the tabs can be rearranged and be repositioned, or I can put it back here. And I can even have my own layouts. I have some layouts which are coming with the system by default, like this one, for instance. Or I can create my own layouts by saving them and reuse them again and again for some specific labors or tasks. Okay, so once I'm into this layout, let me show you something. Let me explain you how in this particular layout, which is the default layout, how everything is arranged on the screen, and what are the different elements which integrate the interface. Okay, in this central area, we have the viewport, which is going to show me the final render. This is a full 3D render. We'll see that in a bit. Also, this column here in the left hand, it's showing me the hierarchy which has all the compositions. All these elements here are compositions which are part of my project. Also, on the other hand, we have this area here, this other column on the right hand, which is a contextual area which is going to change according to what we select in the column in the left hand. Sorry. Also, this area here is showing me the parameters and the properties of all the elements that we have in here. So it's going to change according to what we select here. We also have the possibility of exposing another part of the interface, another column, which is going to be used in order to have more parameters at the same time and for some advanced interaction. We'll see that later on. Okay, the first thing that you notice here is that we have what we have here is a storm logic. This storm logic is a technology that Brainstorm has developed. So let me clean the interface. And storm logic is basically going to control the interaction between the graphics once they are triggered. As you can see, we're triggering this element, which is an opening scene. You see that's a 3D environment, complete 3D environment. It's a 3D scene with complete with reflections, with illumination effects, and all the elements have some volume. So let me orbit the camera around, so you will see that everything is updated in real time. I even have the possibility of taking a look at the wireframe of the elements, so you can see all the polygons which are integrated in our part of these 3D elements we're playing back in real time. Let's get back to shaded view, and let's reset the camera. Okay, I was talking about storm logic a while ago. Storm logic, as I said before, is a technology which basically controls how the graphics are triggered, how they interact with each other without having to create or foresee all the possible interactions, all the possible layouts on screen. So, for instance, we have this element. We can trigger this earth globe here. This is at its position in the 3D space. If I trigger this other element, you see that this element, this new element, this tech logo, it's going to replace the first one, the globe that we had before. By triggering the earth globe again, just by clicking on it, you see that it has replaced the other one. The other one has disappeared. So that's because these two elements are part of the hierarchy at the same level. So basically, storm logic, by positioning them in the same level, it knows that one has to replace the other. Or I can select some other behaviors, but you don't have to care about all the possible interactions. We'll see that much better with some other elements. So, for instance, we have this graph. And if we take in another graph, we have the same kind of interaction that we had before with the other two elements. But we also have here some lower thirds and some tickers. So, sorry, let me trigger some lower third. Okay, like this. If I trigger this ticker, you see that the lower third has been pushed up in order to give more room for the ticker to appear on the screen. If I trigger another ticker, you see that everything has been rearranged on screen in order to give more room for the new ticker. And if I also trigger another lower third, everything has been rearranged on screen in order to allow me to take a look at to see all the elements that we are triggering. Okay, I even have this element here, this important news. If I trigger it, you see that, for instance, the first graph, that the graph that we triggered before, has been rearranged, has moved to the right, has been moved to the right, and also has been resized in order to give more room for this. If I take this element out, you see that everything is rearranged on the screen. Okay, so let's get into the that's a brief introduction to StormLogic. So let's get into the creation side of Aston 3D. So if I get back here, let's clean the screen, and I can now go to some of the 3D elements that we have here. Such as this one, or let me open that one. Okay, so we have this text here, we have the surface here, we also have some other elements here. Okay, and you see that everything's changing here in this area. Okay, so as I said before, let's focus into that one. Okay, some of the elements we have here, for instance, are let me trigger the graphic so you'll see the interaction. You'll see the at the end of the animation. Okay. Okay, now the animation has finished. So now we're in this element down here. So this element here, this scene we have here, as I said before, is a complete 3D scene, so we can get closer to it, zoom out, zoom in. Also, I can orbit around the camera, or I can get closer to some of the elements. So let's focus in this Aston 3D text. So you can see it's a 3D text which has been extruded. It also has some reflections, real-time reflections, and some real-time materials which are rendered in real time. Okay, so let's get closer to it. Okay, so this text here, as I said before, is a 3D text. We can select it on screen, which has some properties which that I can edit, of course. In this case, as I said before, we had a material, so I can get into the material and, for instance, change the color of the material. You see that it's updated in real time and it's rendered in real time even in the final video output. And I can also make some other changes to it. For instance, I can get here to my library and drag and drop some of the materials that we have. And as you can see, they're applied in real time and updated in real time even in the video output. Okay, another stuff I can do with it, it's, for instance, let's focus in the way this text has been extruded. So let's focus in the 3D font parameters. As you can see, this is the thumbnail of the final result we're going to get. And let's get closer to the letter O, so you can see some of the stuff I'm going to show you. Okay, as you can see here in the letter O, especially around this area, you can see you can notice the transition between the polygons which are part of my 3D object. In this case, you can see the transition, and that's because we have some controls to decide the quality of the render of the 3D elements. So we have these controls here, these threshold and resolution controls. We can increase, for instance, the resolution, and you see that now it's rounder. Or I can even, let's decrease the resolution a little bit, and you see that I have taken the threshold up, and now it's, especially you can notice that in the extrusion that it's rounder than it was before. Okay, the good thing about these two controls is that you can animate them. And for instance, if you have an element which at first it's in the background of your scene and is coming closer to the camera, you can animate that in order to improve the performance and get a better performance, and also in order to prevent the system from not behaving in real time, because everything is rendered by the GPU. and output as a video signal. But of course, there are limitations in the hardware, so sometimes you have to optimize your scenes in order to get a real-time performance with this level of quality and this kind of effects. Okay, let me show you something else. If we get closer to Lero and we are it a little bit, you will see that you can notice that here in the Lero team much better. So let's move that. Okay, you see that this letter is all the other letters are extruded following a certain profile. So we can open the profile properties, and of course we have some presets that we can recall at any time. So for instance, if we change that just by clicking that, we get a completely different result just with a couple of clicks. We can get back to the original one, and of course we can edit it. We can add some point here and move it around, and we get a completely different result very easily. Okay, so let's focus now on the other element we have here, this powered by Brainstorm. Okay, this element here is a 3D element. You see the same extrusion pattern, but we can combine 2D and 3D elements. We can have 2D and 3D graphics at the same time, the same scene without a problem. So, for instance, we have here some 2D fonts, some properties of some 2D fonts, and the only thing we have to do is just drag and drop it, and now it's converted into a 2D font. Sorry. So if I get closer and I orbit around, you will see that it has no. You see that it has no volume. It's now a 2D flat 2D form, 2D font. Sorry. Okay. These 2D fonts have some properties that you can change. So let's select this one, which comes by default with the system. Okay, and we can change. Let's change the kerning a little bit in order to make it look much better. So, for instance, let's get into here. Here's the kerning. I'll make it look better. I think it's around 0.7 or 0.5. Okay, that's way too much. Let's try 0.3. Okay, that's it. Okay, so once I have this controlled, of course I can change my text and say something like graphics creation. Okay, and now change the kerning again to justify it. Okay, 0.7 I think will work. Something like that. Okay. Okay, once I have this, what I can do now is that as I said before, let's reposition that. Okay. And what I can do now is that I can make some changes to this text. The same way as we have with the 3D font, we can go here to the 2D font parameters, and I also have some control of the quality. So let's get closer to that. You will see that you have jagged edges here. You have the best anti-aliasing in the world. So of course you can change the quality, and as you can see now it's rounder. Let's make it like this. Okay, so you see that we have much better result. Another thing I can do with that is that in this case this particular preset is called 3 borders. That means that I have control over 3 borders of my elements. So I have a general, which I can blur, for instance, the general. We have some fill. I can change the fill. I have some emboss effect here. And I also have 3 borders as we said before. So we have this first border here, and we can control, for instance, the embossing. Okay, you see that it's changing. And I can control some of the other borders, like for instance this one, which is a yellow border, and for instance change the color. You see that it's updated in real time. Cool. Okay, so the same way we were doing these changes, we were making these changes to the to the elements we have, to the font and the shading we're using for this text. We can also control the animation of the object. So in this case, let's focus in something we call the text effects. Okay, if I trigger my graphic, you see that we have this kind of fade in, fade out animation, which is used to take the graphic in and out. But we can make some changes to that. We have some presets that we can use. For instance, we can use expand, and this is a completely different element, a completely different animation, sorry. And in this case, we're mirroring the animation to take the graphic in and to take it out. But we can deselect this and have a completely different animation here. So for instance, I can change something, I can do something like this. And if I take that out, we have this animation to take the graphic out and this animation to take that in. Of course, I have control of the overlapping, I have control of the transformation, I can even create my own presets. So I have many different controls in order to change it. So for instance, if we go into the in effect, I have, for instance, I can tell it to be random. You see that it's randomly the characters are appearing on screen. So very easily I can make a very complex animation without having to animate each and every character separately. Okay, so once I have done this, let's get back to the Storm Logic and let's reset the camera and let's see the results. So let's clean my area here and trigger the animation. As you can see, all the changes that I've made to the material are played back in real time. They're updated here. In this case, the material was shared between the logo and the Aston 3D. And you see that all the changes I've made to the graphics, to the new text, graphics creation, everything is rendered in real time, both in the viewport and also in the video output. Cool. Okay, so now let's focus on some other stuff that you can do with Aston 3D. Okay, we also have another section of my scene, which is this one. In this case, we have an HD video background. This is a skating race, and we have created some graphics for it. For instance, we have this Team A. It's going to trigger that animation with that graphic. We also have this another graphic that I can trigger in, and we also have these other elements here. So, for instance, we have the record. And again, these elements are part of the same hierarchy in the Storm Logic tree. So if I trigger that one, you see that the graphics are rearranged. If I take the record again, everything is rearranged on screen, everything is appearing. Okay, we also have this ranking here, which is basically a ranking. It's a timetable of the best times in this race. And we'll focus into this element to show you how it's made and some of the advanced stuff we can do with Aston. So let's get back to, let's focus into that. Okay, and let me show you that this is a 3D element which has some reflections, and you can see that, you can notice that they're updated in real time. So something like this. Okay, cool. And let's see how it's made. Okay, in this case, this element, all these elements, all these bars are part of a group, and this group is a special kind of group we call a grid. Basically, a grid is a group which allows it very easily to control the animation of all these elements. So, for instance, I can change the rotation, and you see that very easily I'm rotating all the elements. And of course, I can animate all these parameters. So very easily I can create very advanced animation of all the elements which are part of my grid. Let's reset the value. But I also have some more advanced stuff which I can do with it, which is that I have these group effects. Basically, group effects are presets of effects that I can apply to my grid in this case. So, for instance, I can select something like rotation. Let's try roll right. You see, that way, very easily I have created a very complex animation without having to animate all the elements which are part of my group. I have, of course, I have control of the overlapping. So if I select high overlapping, everything's going to happen faster. If I select no overlapping, everything's going to happen lot more slower. Sorry. Okay, we also have controls of the order, so I can say I want it to be random, and very easily create some very advanced stuff. Let's begin with that. Okay, so once I have done this, let's focus on some other stuff here. Okay, so I will open the data, and let's open the form. This is a form, and we also have this data control here. And in this case, all the elements here. You see that I have all the data that we have here about the times are coming from an Excel file. In this case, this is the Excel file. And as you can see, we are retrieving the data from an XLS. It can also be a CSV file, whatever I want. I can make changes to the Excel and update it, but you're not limited to the data which is coming from some external sources. And of course, we are not limited to Excel files. We can also get data from RSS feeds. We can get data from XML files, from ODBC compliant databases. So basically, it's very easily to retrieve data from external sources. And as I said before, you're not limited to that. I can make changes here and call that guy, say something like, I don't know, Kevin Smith. And you see that it's updated down here. Okay, cool. And we can also have some more advanced stuff besides what we have shown you with the grid, and also what we have what I'm showing here with this. We can also have use Python and create our some custom interfaces. So with Python, for instance, we have created this button. We have created some code to highlight some of the players in the classification. We can take them all out, and we can follow the classification from first one in one order or in reverse order. The good thing is that we can create this form here, which is a custom interface, and this custom interface is going to be part of my graphic template, and that graphic template can be exported and used by OnDemand, which is our playout control solution. And basically, the playout operator, which doesn't have to be a graphic designer, can fill in the data, and he can also make some interaction with the graphics, but just interaction that we have allowed them to have with the graphics. So in this case, for instance, they can control the way all the different elements are going to appear on the screen. It's very easily to create these elements. So for instance, if I select this one, all I have to do is drag and drop it. Down here. And now, for instance, I have control of the way this element is appear on the screen, or I can double click on it, and if I drag and drop it here, I also have some control, for instance, to fill in the data of these elements. Let's say it's not Cole Smith, it's Cole Jones. You see that it's updated in real time. As I said before, it's very important that all these custom interface will be part of my template, and any operator running on demand, which is not it's not going to be a graphic designer, can control certain aspects of my graphics without having to have the full software, and without having to be a very advanced user of the software. Okay, thank you very much. That's been it for today. I hope you have enjoyed Aston 3D, and hope to see you soon. Thank you very much.